Today we're covering Chapter 1, Lesson 6, Add and Subtract, Unlike Fractions. And they are not called unlike fractions because we just don't like them, although some of you do not. Unlike fractions have different denominators, which makes them just a little bit more work. If the fractions have different denominators, we rename the fraction using the least common denominator, the LCD. So let's work an example. 3/5 plus 1/10. And we think of the multiples. If I was counting by 10, I would have 10, then 20, then 30. If I was counting by fives, it would be 5, 10. Oh, look, there's one. They both have a 10. So the least common denominator is 10. To change the 5 to a 10, we multiply by 2. If I do the same thing on top, I get a 6. The bottom fraction already has a 10 as the denominator, so we just scoot it over. And then just like yesterday, we add the two numerators. So 6 plus 1 makes 7, and the denominator stays the same. And we always need to have our answers in simplest form. That's when the numerator and the denominator can no longer be divided evenly by the same number. So there's nothing I could divide 7 and 10 by evenly. Next example. We have 3 fractions, but really only 2 denominators. So the denominator that they have in common would be 88. And I got that by just multiplying the two denominators. I multiplied that times that. That's what I call the easiest common denominator, just multiplying the two denominators together. That will work every time. You'll get a common denominator every time you multiply the two denominators. You'll get something they have in common. So, to change 8 to 88, we multiply by 11. So on top, that gets me 7 times 11, which is 77. And to change 11 to 88, we multiply by 8. So that numerator would be 24. Again, to change 8 to 88, we multiply by 11. So if I do that on top, I get 11. Then we have to add all of those together. 77 plus 24 plus 11. $112 over 88. And any time that the numerator is bigger than the denominator, we need to go divide. Kind of like man horse, except this time the man is fat and he has to go inside the house and go watch television. And the horse stands outside. 88 goes into 112 once. Then we subtract. And get 24. And because we're working with fractions right now, we're going to leave the 24 as my new numerator, and the denominator is 88. So I have one whole number and 24 over 88. But I need to simplify that. They're both even, so 2 would work. but something bigger might be 8. They both can be divided by 8. 24 divided by 8 is 3. 88 divided by 8 is 11. And then I really want to make sure to move that whole number over because they go together. They're a family. They can't be broken up. Now let's do a couple of the guided practice. I'm just going to skip down here to number 5 and work an example. If 1/3 of the students got an A and 2/5 of them got a B, what fraction of the students got an A or a B? Or is a key word that means we're going to be adding, typically. So 1/3 plus 2/5. We want to get a common denominator. So think about counting by 5s and by 3s. What would they have in common? 15 would be a good common denominator. So if I multiply 5 times 3, I get 15. Do the same thing on top. 2 times 3 is 6. And then to change the 3 to 15, I would multiply by 5. So if I do the same thing on top, I get 5. And then I just add the numerators. So 5 plus 6 makes 11, and the denominator is still 15. Let's look at number 6. If 5/8 of the people in a water aerobics class are over age 65, and 1/4 of the people in the class are under age 40, what fraction of the people in the class are either 65 or over 65 or under 40? There's that word or. So we are adding again. 5/8 plus 1/4. Going to need a common denominator. If you're counting by 8s and by 4s, the first thing they have in common is 8. So my least common denominator is 8. Since the first fraction has an 8 already, I just need to scoot it over. To change 4 to 8, I multiply by 2. So if I do that to the numerator, I get 2. And then 5 plus 2 makes 7, and the denominator stays the same, 7/8.